Before we begin, I'd like to thank LEGO for sending us the set that we have to review today. Despite that fact, I would like to make it clear that everything in this review is my personal opinion, and them sending it to us has no bearing over what I'm going to say in this video. Once again, thank you very much and enjoy the video. Hello everyone and welcome to a TTV review. Today we're taking a look at a LEGO Overwatch set, specifically set number 75973 D.Va and Reinhardt. The set contains approximately 455 pieces, is released this year in 2019, and at the moment is currently around $40. Obviously enough, being a player of the game Overwatch, I was quite excited to get a hold of any of the LEGO Overwatch sets, so imagine my great surprise and joy when LEGO ended up sending me this one. Now, as many of you may be aware, I play Overwatch, and very specifically I play Reinhardt. I decided early on before the game even fully came out that I was either going to play a bunch of characters okay, or one character very, very well, and that ended up being Reinhardt. That being the case, I'm of course going to look over both of the items in this set. This set comes with two distinct figures, the Mecha mech with D.Va and the Reinhardt Crusader suit of armor with a minifigure, Reinhardt Wilhelm. As far as their individual suits are concerned, I will look at D.Va's first, then Reinhardt's. However, let's take a quick look at the minifigures and their accessories. As we can see, the set comes with two minifigures. Obviously enough, the one on the right is Hana Song, and the one on the left is Reinhardt Wilhelm. When it comes to these two, I find the D.Va minifigure to be far superior. Not only is the printing absolutely on point, however, it has far more detail and attention to the character model than I believe Reinhardt does. D.Va, obviously enough, comes with a double printed face, one where she is blowing bubblegum out, and the other where she is winking. I find this minifigure to be absolutely spectacular in adaptation, as it just looks like a LEGO version of D.Va ripped straight from the game. The only thing I find it's missing is printing on the arms, but that is a common trait shared amongst all of the Overwatch minifigures. As far as accessories are concerned for D.Va, we see she has her classic pink sidearm. Obviously enough, this is a new mold, and it is one that is standardized. It's not specially catered toward her. As you can see, there is a comparison between it and what is in the game. However, I find that this is perfectly acceptable. I'm glad to see that they did incorporate it, and I think it looks really good on a LEGO scale. When it comes to Reinhardt, I'm hurt, because the minifigure is fine if you don't look past the torso and the face. Everything else I find to be immensely questionable. Obviously enough, he is intended to go in the suit, so this doesn't matter as much when it comes to accuracy. However, this Reinhardt minifigure feels awfully plain. The only printing he has on his torso is that on the front and the back, and while it's really good, that's all we get. As far as the face, I find the face print to be actually really solid. The issue I take above the torso is actually with his hairpiece. I don't think this is an accurate hairpiece basically at all. In pretty much every promotional material with Reinhardt in it, when you see his face, his hair isn't down. So in this instance, I find this hairpiece to be an immense letdown. I do believe that there are better alternatives when it comes to his hairstyle, and I'll throw one on screen right now just to kind of prove my case, or at least make it a more substantial argument. As far as accessories are concerned, I love what they added for Reinhardt. They gave him a tiny Overwatch logoed medallion. I love that they included this in this set for Reinhardt because it is a direct reference to honor and glory. From that perspective, I think that's an amazing nod. I really love that they did that. So between the two minifigures, I greatly prefer D.Va, even though I don't prefer D.Va game-wise. And Reinhardt is, to me, an immense letdown. Maybe that can be rectified with the rest of the set. Let's go ahead and dig into it. Starting, of course, with the Mecha. Now, the Mecha is, honestly, like the D.Va minifigure, an excellent representation of the mech from the game in LEGO form. I think they did a phenomenal job representing this mech suit. Obviously enough, you get a plethora of pink pieces. Now, me personally, pink is my least favorite color, bar none. So from that perspective, this doesn't appeal to me whatsoever. However, from the perspective of bringing it to a LEGO set, I think they did a phenomenal job. The attention to detail is excellent. You have all sorts of thrusters, you have the guns which have articulation, You have the legs, which of course are also articulated. I think that this is a really good play model, as well as a model taken from its source material. My grievances with this, outside of it being pink, which is kind of a prerequisite for this, obviously, would have to be with the stickers. I just absolutely despise stickers, and these are not helped by the fact that they are mostly non-specific areas. When I apply stickers to a set, I am trying to match borders. I'm trying to look at the instructions and see, alright, where can I line this up so that I can best represent what the set is attempting to convey to me? Can I go ahead and put it in the corner of a brick or a panel? With D.Va, there are several stickers where I don't have that luxury. They're kind of floating, or they're on circular pieces, which make it very difficult for me to actually properly line them up. So in addition to having a copious amount of stickers, there's stickers that go in ways where it's difficult for me to properly apply them, and that frustrates me. I built this set while I was actually rather ill, and I was still able to get everything on fine, which is a testament to how well the set goes together. However, to me it ended up being frustrating to see all of these stickers going in non-specific areas, where I feel maybe they could have helped out a little bit more by making the surface area of the sticker maybe a bit larger to accommodate for those non-specific areas. Another, albeit small, issue I have with this model would actually be in the arms. I think that the arms are actually really well done, however, the lack of bilateral movement in the gun going into the elbow, I find it difficult to give it proper posing. The guns end up being at a bit of an angle, and in most promotional material, they don't actually go that way. Now, of course, this is very easily forgiven because I cannot think of a better way this could have been done. It's accurate, it looks good, it looks LEGO, and so it's a very minor grievance. Overall, as far as just the mech is concerned, I think it is outstanding. While it's not something I am preferential toward, as far as a representation of the mecha in the game, I think they could not have done a better job with this. It's compact, it's accurate, you get everything you would want in a mecha, and it looks just really representative of the game model. Something fun of note, and this is immensely specific to my model here. On the cockpit, you can see the upper part of the visor is actually a darker, more solid green than the lower part. Now, I've scoured far and wide. I could not find anyone else that had this darker, more milky shaded visor, as opposed to the one you see here. It was mostly transparent, translucent, like what you see on the lower part. So I'm assuming it's a misprint. I don't know if this is a common misprint to have. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, I think it's actually kind of fun, but it's just kind of a fun side note. Now when it comes to getting D.Va in the mech, this is another kinda sorta grievance I have. It works, but it's also a bit peculiar. For starters, you can put the gun, if you don't want it to just float around, on one of two clips on the side of the mecha, which I find to be absolutely phenomenal. This is really good for keeping your pieces safe and secure, and making sure you know where they are. So to get D.Va in the mech, obviously enough you have to put her hands up toward her face, and on the back of the mecha, open up the back hatch. Now, where I would assume you would clip the minifigure's legs into these two studs right on the back hatch, you don't. Instead, you just slide the minifigure into the mech and then close the hatch. Now, if you just leave it like that, D.Va is just going to float around, which I find to be immensely obnoxious. So the way I go about it is I open the canopy, I bring the lower part down a little bit, and I bring D.Va forward. Then I place her in between these guns and squeeze the guns just a little bit. Then I bring up the lower half and bring down the upper half, and voila! She's going to stay in there a lot better, and this is really going to help the set avoid the clinking and cluttering around of D.Va as she flies around the cockpit of the mech whenever you're swooshing it around or doing what have you. Overall, the mecha and D.Va is an excellent representation of the figure, the person, the model in the game. I think they did a phenomenal job adapting it. It's definitely the best part of the set, and if you're a fan of D.Va and a fan of LEGO, I cannot help but recommend this to you. Let's get into the part of the review which is going to hurt me immensely, and it is of course Reinhardt. Now, as I said before, I have a massive bias toward Reinhardt. I play a lot of Reinhardt, I'm really good at him. So the fact that this Reinhardt ended up being a decent looking model but a horrible figure really disappoints me. Let's go ahead and get Lieutenant Reinhardt in his suit. First, discard the accessory and take off Reinhardt's hair. Then turn his head around where you can see printing on the other side that looks like his helmet, and take the helmet that they give you and go ahead and just place it on the minifigure. That looks really good. I think as far as the helmet is concerned, they did a really good job adapting it. From there, make sure this crossbar is brought up and you can just place the minifigure standing normally in the mech. You kind of have to make sure he clicks in there, and that way you know he's absolutely in the mech as he needs to be. Then bring the crossbar down and you have Reinhardt. So Reinhardt is definitely what I feel to be the more interesting of these two. And that's because he has a lot of issues that seem like easy fixes. Now, I'm not a mockist, and I also don't go out of my way to make corrections that I feel are necessary to LEGO sets. I really don't. I try and keep them as stock as possible because I'm interested in what the designers are trying to convey with the set. Obviously enough, you should be more than welcome to do whatever you want with the items you purchase and with the bricks that you now have. With Reinhardt, this is the first set in a very, very long time I felt I could make corrections to that I could not figure out why they weren't made to begin with. And let me go ahead and elaborate on those first. When it comes to Reinhardt, it's all on the back, and it's really only two things. So on the back of the legs, comparing Reinhardt to his in-game model, I'm not entirely certain why these pieces were not flipped like so. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Obviously, it just takes up the same amount of space, so I'm not sure why that wasn't done to more accurately represent the in-game model. Now, this is a very minor thing. The part of this that I find more egregious is actually on his back. Now, you have a contraption here, which you can actually just take off entirely. I find that the thruster is too low on the set, and if you just flip this upside down, not only do you bring it up, but you have it in a more accurate and a more proper area of the model. It doesn't conflict with anything. I can't find any reason why this would not be acceptable. Now, obviously, every part of a set's construction has immense time and effort put into it, and this, I'm sure, is no exception. There has to be a reason why it was done the way that it was done in the instructions. I'm not saying that the designers who worked on this were lazy or that they did this ignorantly. I'm just saying that I feel that this is a much better way to have this set constructed than how it is presented to us in the instructions. I find the other alternative to be immensely lackluster and a complete letdown as someone who really enjoys playing this character and doing cool things as it. That aside, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the set. As far as representing the in-game model, I think this does an alright job. There are a lot of different shades of this hue. There's a lot of light gray, there's a lot of dark gray, and then there's also sprinklings of silver. It's just a whole lot of gray, where I feel it might have been better if it was more consistent. Of course, that's another thing where I'm sure set designers take this into account, and they do a lot of work to make sure that the building experience is enjoyable for people of all ages. This set is in the 10+ age range, and I'm sure that they did this to make sure that the pieces that you were using at any given time were not confusing. If they were all one gray, then you might have made some easy errors or mistakes, depending on how old you are. So I'm certain that is the reason behind it, but as a finished model, I can of course say that it looks a bit busy, especially compared to the default skin in the game. Moving into articulation, it's restricted. You have 2 points of articulation in the legs, you have an ankle, and you have the hip. The actual leg itself does not have a knee, which is an increasing trend with LEGO mechs. I understand that. It's not going to excuse what I feel to be a disappointment as far as a play figure to me. The arms have much better articulation. You actually have 4 fingers, 3 fingers and a thumb, elbow articulation, and then shoulder articulation. I think this is really good. I like that this is included. However, because the arm doesn't have bilateral movement in the elbow, it's difficult to get Reinhardt into these classic Reinhardt poses. It's a bit restrictive. So on the one hand, it's really great because it's an additional point of articulation. On the other, it is still a bit of a pill. As far as stickers are concerned, there are far fewer than D.Va has, and they are applied in a way that makes it easy for me to center them and get them exactly how I want them to be. So I do appreciate that, even if I still don't like stickers to begin with. Looking at his hammer, I find this to be an interesting model. I think that it does a reasonable job conveying what it is. It's obviously Reinhardt's rocket hammer. However, some concessions are being made to achieve certain things. For starters, you can see that the actual grip of the hammer is rather thin, that is to make an easy connection, in addition to the lower half of the hammer needing to be this way, because it acts as his minifigure hammer. You can split the hammer apart, you can then take the black part, which ends up being the pommel on the large hammer, but the front of it for the tiny one, and there you have it, a Reinhardt minifigure sized hammer, which you can then give to the figure, and I mean, that's cool. Don't get me wrong, I think that's really cool, but you have to make a couple concessions in order to get this across. The most egregious of which I find being the miniature rocket in the lower half of the hammer, which is not present on the larger variant in the game. I find this to be a perfectly acceptable hammer. I think that it works well, it conveys the point across. I just feel that some of the compromise reduces the accuracy to me, and at the end of the day, this is attempting to do its best to convey the figure in the game as a set. Where I feel that this works, it also makes a compromise I wasn't really asking for. But at the same time, I appreciate it for existing and giving people that may have been asking for it options to do so. As for the rest of the figure, I do find that there is a bit of a gap in the arms to the shoulder armor, which of course has to be there because of how it's connected. The new shoulder armor pieces I find to be perfectly fine, they look really cool, even if they are a bit specialized, and I'm sure this will turn some people away from the set, because they are more specialized pieces as opposed to being brick built. Over on the left arm, we do have what appears to be his giant shield. Now, the actual shield itself is absent from this model, which, I mean, is understandable because then you'd either have to make a completely new piece or make a bunch of different pieces convey the shield. So this is a perfectly fine compromise. They have the stickers on it, it looks perfectly fine. I actually don't mind it whatsoever. So when it comes to Reinhardt itself, unfortunately, I just can't help but feel that the set is really close. I can accept it because I have a bias toward Reinhardt. So I'm content, but at the same time it has a lot of issues and flaws which I find to be peculiar. It really brings us down, and especially in comparison to the D.Va Mecha, which has proper points of articulation, it has plenty of play value, it has accuracy to the model almost to a T. It's really, really good. And Reinhardt is really, really flawed. I feel like it is it's a decent looking model that comes really close to being really, really excellent, but falls short in a lot of different ways. And that to me is the greatest disappointment, being a player and a fan of Reinhardt in the game. As far as the final verdict is concerned, I am content with this set. It was the one that I was intending to get to begin with, and so I'm happy to have it, and I think they did do a good job conveying the figures from the game in set form. I obviously have major grievances with Reinhardt, but that may be because I'm putting him under more scrutiny as a fan of the character in the game. As far as D.Va's concerned, while I have no affinity for the in-game character whatsoever, I find this to be an excellent representation. If you're a D.Va fan, you're really, really gonna be stoked about the Mecha and the D.Va minifigure. So at the end of the day, I definitely encourage you, if you are a fan of Overwatch, go out and get this set. I think you will be pleased, I think you'll enjoy it, and if you're trying to build up a collection, of course you're gonna want these two iconic characters from the game. And that about sums it up. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I always enjoy hearing other people's thoughts and opinions. And if you want to get this set, head down to the description below and click the link there with the affiliate link, and you can get your very own LEGO Overwatch sets today. I'm Eljay, hopefully you enjoyed this review, and we'll see you all later for another one in the near future. Have a great day.